Greetings and welcome to the Sapan event titled Nepal's Shifting Political Landscape, JNG Protests, Democratic Reform, and Pathway Forward. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarita Bartola. I am Sapan founding member and host for your program today. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. To understand the JNG protest in 2025, it helps to look at Nepal's long political transaction. Just a second. I have been hearing myself back, so I'll just mute quick before. Sorry, everyone, for that technical glitch. I think I had my YouTube on, so I started hearing myself. So, well, going back to understand Genji protest in September 2025, it helps to look at the Nepal long political transition. Since the end of the monarchy and the 2015 constitution, the country has made progress in local governance, decentralization, legal, and fiscal reform. At political power is centralized, youth representation is limited, and accountability mechanism has struggled. The 2022 election reflected this frustration, showing more independent candidate and ongoing gaps in representation of marginalized group. The protests were more about the protests were not only about the ban of the social media, they reflected years of youth frustration and the demand for government that is inclusive, efficient, and accountable. With an interim government in place and elections scheduled for March 2026, Nepal stands at the critical crossroad. Today, we will explore whether the movement can lead to lasting reform or if old political habits will limit the meaningful change. Before we begin, a few quick house rules. Please keep your microphone muted, only speaking, or use the chat to share comment or questions. Selected question will be addressed during Q&A segment. At the end, the session will is being recorded and live streamed. I also would like to briefly highlight in Sapan three-point founding charter, which has been endorsed over by 136 organizations and more than 737 individuals in the region and the diaspora. The charter calls on government and people of South Asian nation institute soft border to allow freedom of trade and travel to each other's countries, ensure human rights and dignity for all citizens, including religious and ethnic minorities, cooperate in all areas, particularly related to public health, culture and legal reform, education, environment, climate change, etc. It is also in online in several languages. Do take a look into our website and endorse the charter if you have not already done. With that, I am pleased to introduce the moderator of today's panel discussion, Khushi Kabir. Khushi is a feminist, human rights, and environmental activist who has spent decades working with marginalized rural communities to empower poor, challenge patriarchy, and advocate for justice. She holds leadership role in nations and regional network, including Sangat, 1 Billion Rising Campaign, and South Asia Foundation. She's also the founding member of SAPAN. With that introduction, over to you, Kushi.
Thank you, Sarita, for the introduction. I almost couldn't recognize myself the way you introduced me. Welcome, everyone. I'm Khushi Kabir, and it's such a privilege for me to moderate today's discussion on Nepal's shifting political landscape, focusing on the Gen Z protests that happened this September, looking at how Nepal is looking at democratic reforms, what are the discussions, and the pathways forward. We've all been very interested in wanting to know more about Nepal. And so I'm really pleased to be able to be here today. We have an outstanding panel with us today and bringing expertise from human rights sector, governance, climate activism, media, policy, and actual people, somebody who's been on the streets when the movement was happening. I'm excited to explore their perspectives and insights with you. So we have Tanuja Pandey, a youth-led climate justice organizer and the chairperson of Harin Nepal. Then we have Bhakta Vishwakarma, a human rights lawyer and Dalit rights activist who's been working for inclusive democracy in Nepal for over 30 years. Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, research director NIICE, with decades of experience in South Asia studies, peace, and international security issues. Rima Bishwakarma, a Nepal actor. She's a social activist and a media professional, engaging youth through film and television, and now trying to enter into a new arena. We'll talk about that. And finally, we have Bhojraj Pokhrel, who has over 5 years of experience in governance and policy, and is the former Chief Election Commissioner of Nepal during the historic 2008 elections. I went through everyone's backgrounds, and I was very impressed with the group that we have. So we look forward to an engaging discussion with all of them and with all of you. Before we begin our discussion, I'd like all of you and invite all of you to drop your questions in the chat box. Anytime you have a question, you just put it in the chat box. We'll have a dedicated question and answer session later in the program, where we'll select 3 to 4 questions to ask to our panelists. So again, I'd like to repeat for all of those who are with us today that please write your questions in the chat box, and at the end of the discussions, we'll have a dedicated question and answer session, and where we'll select a few questions, 3 to 4, depending on time, to ask to our panelists. I now want to begin our conversation by exploring the current political climate in Nepal, the role of young people in shaping democracy today. Actually, we are all very interested in knowing what is happening in Nepal. We had seen that Sri Lanka had this big movement and the overthrow of the government. We had one in Bangladesh last year, and this year in Nepal. So I think what Nepal and all of you would be speaking today would be of interest for the whole region and people who are interested in the region. So I'd like to start first with Tanuja Pandey. She's a Gen Z organizer, a prominent and key figure in the protests, and one of the few people who were invited by the army when your prime minister had resigned, the then prime minister had resigned. So I'd like to begin by asking you, what were the issues that led you to be on the streets? And after 3 months, that is, the protests were in September 25, what now emerges, what were the core demands then, which the young people in Nepal really faced, and what they're raising today? What has changed from 3 months back, and what progress has been made in looking at these demands? So I'd like you to just feel free and answer it how you would like to. Each one, I just want to mention, each one will have, at the first round, we'll go for 2 rounds of questions and discussions. So first round, we have 3 to 4 minutes, and the next round, we'll again have another 3 to 4 minutes. So Tanuja, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prasi. Starting with what led young people to be on the street, I don't have one single answer, because whatever we saw on September first week was the accumulation of frustration that not just GNG, but the entire generations have been feeling in Nepal. However, they were not being able to express it. And starting with that, in late August, the JNG protest was escalating in Indonesia, and indeed it touched Nepal as well. And Nepalese youth got the courage from Indonesian youth to speak against the ongoing corruption in Nepal. And at September first week, there was the social media trends going around. It was about naming. The campaign was named is Naming and Seming, where a lot of political elites were called out for their show-off, and young people were asking the questions where all those money were coming from. And on September 6th, there was this hit and run case by a provincial minister in Kathmandu. And later on that evening, our Prime Minister, he gave an statement saying that the incident didn't kill anyone, so there's no issue in making anything out of such incident. And that was very insensitive stance of him, being a guardian of this nation. And that's when the digital movement was turned into a street movement. And the meantime, the social media ban happened, and we felt like it was intentional to suppress the voice of young people. And on 8th of September, young people, they hit the street, and I was there. I observed everything that happened. I'm the witness, and I know that a lot of people were there too, who have seen this movement, and it was all peaceful movement. And if you see in the recent history of Nepal, this is not the first time JNGs were leading the campaign in Nepal. There are movements like Save Nisgard movement. There's Enough is Enough campaign that happened during the COVID period, and it was against the corruption that took place on the vaccine. And it was all peaceful. It was very artistic, and even this time the movement was artistic and peaceful. However, the security force of Nepal, they used violence and tried to suppress the young people voice. And when the young people retaliate, the state killed 23 of our friends. And that's how the September 9th event happened. And even on September 9th, it was the repercussion of whatever the state did to its people. And from that day to today, yeah, the changes I see is yes, Nepal got its first female prime minister, and I don't. It's not a change in itself. However, we were quite quick in comparison to other South Asian region in that. And another thing is that on the very day when the prime minister was she was chosen, on that day the election date was announced as well, and entire Nepal is welcoming the election. Even JNGs who toppled down the government are calling the same people to join the election and to be the part of that election. And this shows the beauty of democracy of Nepal, and also how young people are supporting democracy. And other change I see in Nepal right now is young people are calling for the intersectional justice. They are not talking about the tokenistic democracy. Rather, they are also talking about the voice of minority that democracy failed to address in Nepal. So I think that is the key progress we have. And another progress I see in Nepal right now is that young people are getting space, and it should have. I think now it shows that if there is willingness, that the people always have way to do so. All of a sudden, you can see young people in every platform, and it's quite a good progress. However, we are still not satisfied with the interim government itself, and a lot of criticism are going around, especially because our core demand was the investigation on September 8th and 9th event. We want to know who killed our friends, and we also want to know who vandalized our state property, because our movement was for it was for saving our tax-paid money, not destroying it. So we equally want to know who vandalized and arsoned our country in the name of JNG and tried to criminalize our entire movement. And beside that, we recently, JNG signed an agreement with government of Nepal. And however, it institutionalized our movement. However, the existing political party, they didn't join the agreement. So there's still big question whether our agreement will have the legitimacy or not, whether it will be addressed or not. However, However, we are still hopeful and we are eager to participate in election as a voter, as a candidate, and also as an observer.
Thank you, Tanuja. Uh, I'll ask everyone to be a bit, that was a very good overview and we loved it. We learned a lot. So just one thing is when you talk that there was you signed an agreement with the interim government and the Gen Z. The Gen Z is a huge, broad group of young people from the generation Z. So how did you select who are the people who would sign? Do you all have just very briefly, if you can just mention that? I think that would be something that people would want to know.
So basically, it was an open call. And even the agreement, even the points that were mentioned in the accord was gathered through online by consulting with larger youth masses. And there's different group called Changes Nepal, Change Alliance, JNG Front, and all of them are working across the country in order to build that, in order to draft that paper. However, this paper is not welcomed by every JNG, because even within JNG, there are different people that believe in different ideology. But as someone who believe in democracy, we welcome that as well, because even though we might be, divided by ideology, but still we are united by the cause, and there are mutual grounds where we can all come together and form this consensus. So it was all the statements that are written in the agreement were collected online, and it was not just few people's draft, but it was drafted by people, right, young people throughout the country. And even the agreement, for the agreement, it was an open call, and every young people who identified themselves and who fall in Change's category were invited openly.
Okay, very good. Thanks. That gives us a very good overview of this process through which this is being done. I'd like to go to Bhakta Vishwakarma now. And given your long-standing work on voters' right, you're the chair of the Nepal Voter Forum, and you've also done a lot of work with bringing in, inclusion in every sphere. So I would just like to say that given the civic education you do or the work on voters' right, now how and what role do you see civil society organizations play in ensuring that citizens, especially marginalized communities, and you have many marginalized communities, whether it's indigenous communities, whether it's caste, whether it's class, whether it's religion, it's whatever, they're aware of their rights to vote and are able to make informed electoral decisions. How are you going about, or is there a space to do this, given the movement, given what is coming up now in front with the elections and the expectations? So Bhakta, I'd like you to respond and to be a bit careful about the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Khushiji, for your moderation. And thank you very much for Sarita ji and all the team for inviting me as a panel. Actually, so we have been working on the inclusion and the voters' rights and the voter education, voter registration, uh, as well as accountability. So since long, I mean, since long means being a civil society actors and being a lawyer. So we have been working since long in this field and in this area in the different platform. But Nepal Voters' Rights Forum has been emerged in 2015, but officially registered in 2017. After that, so one of the major stakeholder is the youth, because we are working with the youth and other marginalized like Dalit, women, and indigenous, Madhes, Muslim, LGBTIQ plus, and disability. So most of the marginalized people who are considered to be I mean, as a marginalized community. So we are working with them. So major idea of the our objective of the organization is how to promote the rights of the people and interlink with the political actors, elected representative, and democratic institutions for making them accountable and bringing them together for the inclusive democracy. So that was the main idea. And one way or others, we have
One
been
thing
working with.
is, yeah. So just given the situation that you're all in now, you had this big upheaval, you have a big uprising, you had the government step down. The political parties, if I have from the previous speaker, they're still not very sure about the role of the youth and what is going to be happening. How do you bridge that, in the work you are doing?
No, I think because we are trying to have we are promoting the intergeneration dialogue among the political actor and the multi-stakeholder type of dialogue. Multi-stakeholder dialogue, that means the political actors, Gen Z, youth, and other democratic actors like state institutions. So we are trying to bring all of them to make some level of consensus, because one of the major issues like out of country voting in Nepal, because one of the major issue of Gen Z's movement was or is for out of country voting. So that is very contesting issues in Nepal. So for that reason also there are a number of evidences, number of studies already taken place in Nepal very quickly. But we are also trying to have some level, another level of some evidences for that. But for that reason, because since long, because integrated election bill was in place, prepared by the election commission and submitted to the Minister of Home Affairs, and under that bill, so we have brought more, the diverse uh, political actors and the civil society, human rights, and national human rights institutions. So all of them, including, the election commission. So I think for that way, so we want to try to, incorporate the issues of out of country voting and also the no nota. So no vote, because most of the youth, if they don't like to cast any votes, then they need to provide the space for that also. So there are other like because most of the more than 4-5 million people, they are going abroad for the better job or the study. So how to incorporate their this voting rights to the this election processes. So that also we are trying. So now onward also we are trying to bring all the multi stakeholders, including Gen Zs and the youth. Not only Gen Z, because according to the Nepal legal practices, legal and the practices, so below 40 they are considered to be the youth. So there are the number of youth organizations, they are considered to be the below 29 years, they are considered to be the youth. But Gen Z is the below 20 years. So all the youth and the Gen Zs we are trying to bring in one place, and the providing, creating the space for the discussion, dialogue, and providing some level of information, research, and what are the practicalities and what are the technicalities and what are the practices internationally. So that we are trying to do, because there are a number of countries like us, like we can say the Philippines and the Bangladesh also recently, they have come up with the legislation. So still we are
Sorry.
practices. So this broad spectrum. So we are trying to bring this multi-sector of population, multi-sector of stakeholders, including youth, in the this dialogue and discussion for bringing
We'll
some
come
level
back to
of
you.
consensus.
Thank you very much. We'll
Some
come
level
back
of
to
consensus.
you about how we
Please.
can bring in more inclusion. So I now would
Yeah.
like to go to Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. So you have a long engagement with South Asian politics, and you've been teaching, and even in Bangladesh, I hear you've been working with youth-led movements and protests in different countries in the region, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and now in Nepal. So how do you interpret the rise of these, very young, the Gen Z as they're called, driven movements? So what are the key political, economic and social factors that are shaping them? I would like Pramod Jaiswal to respond. And what challenges do you think are the major challenges that these movements that have happened? There's a euphoria, and then you've changed the government, you've asked the government to move down, and it's positive. So after this, what are the challenges that these movements pose for the state, especially given the euphoria and the expectations? And are there lessons or potential risks that Nepal should be mindful of? So I would like Pramod Jaiswal to respond in a short way.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It's a pleasure to be among many of the friends that I can see them. Coming directly to the question, because in 2-3 minutes addressing a very complex issue is very challenging. So I think Tanuja has rightly pointed out massive corruption, unemployed and inequality, and all those had massive frustration among the youth. But actually this frustration was at the people of all generations. And there was and it has generated huge anger, not only among the youth but among everyone. Anger was within the ruling party, people within the ruling party as well. The way previous government was functioning, people within the KPOL government were not very happy. Obviously opposition were really angry at the same time. I think one most important factor in whole region we can see is that there's rising aspiration, dreams, and demands of the youth, which has added to the situation. Today, the youth are united by social media, by digital space, and then if there is we can say a new iPhone being launched in US, I think the youth around the world at the same time get that aspirations. It was not there 20 years ago. A new car or new phone in US the information is to take 10 or 5 years to come to the capitals of other cities. So right now we can see that this social media, at the same time, these dreams, desire, and aspirations are coming. That is adding to the frustration that already exists. Second was that in that situation, what did the government have done in Nepal or even in Bangladesh, everywhere? The government has always rewarded the youth with authoritarian pushback. In Nepal, it was social media ban. In Dhaka, it can be use of force. So when the new demand, frustration is added with new demand, the government come with authoritarian push, and that is like challenging the existence of that new force. That, oh, you want to challenge us. So that has been a major factor here. Second, what we have also seen is that in this whole region, we have also seen that most of the countries in the changing geopolitical landscape, the countries are caught between big powers rivalry. Like in Nepal, it can be India, China, and US. In Bangladesh, it can be other countries. So the country has also failed to balance the geopolitical situation at the time. That has also not got support from international community for that regime to sustain. Third, what we have seen is that at times in that frustration, new forces has come in different form. In Nepal, it was RSP, but they had brought hope, but that faded very soon. So what happens? There's no outlet of frustration. So I think these are the major factors that has really challenged the situation when it comes to political, economic, social factor. Let me come to the major question that you raised: challenges of these movement in South Asia. I think first we have seen that these pushback, or you can say setbacks, has brought the situation very chaotic. I think there's little hope in spite of that, because in whole South Asia, what we have seen is that the political parties are cadre based. So you have seen in Sri Lanka, you have seen in Bangladesh, in Nepal. I'll not be surprised if the same old force coming to power again. So because of that situation, how youth can come together and bring that change to a logical conclusion is still yet to be seen. Second is delivery. I mean, in the situation where all the complexity arise, how can the youth who might have great energy, but the situation is same. So I think how will they deliver is very challenging for the whole region. There is also risk that there can be hijack of movement by radical groups or new authoritarian or conservative forces. So I think that is other challenging challenge that we can see in South Asia. I think in this whole situation, what Nepal can learn is that Genji, I think one of the greatest achievement is that Genji have made the political parties of Nepal realize that if you do not deliver, you will be accountable. People will make you accountable. That is the first, I think, achievement of us. Second, I think the youth should unite and lead the movement to a logical conclusion, take a safe landing where they can move further. I think it was Nepal's luck that the violence did not last longer. Had it gone for a week, nothing would have remained. And we have seen that in Dhaka and many other countries. So I think that is a good sign for Nepal. I think political class should take it as a warning. I don't know how much they have learned from it, but I hope that they learn from it. I think everyone should, at the moment, focus on election, have an election on time, and end the transition. Maybe we should avoid something like revival of House of Representative, because this can open new layer of conflict, which can complicate the situation. I think at the moment, what we can just focus on is go for election, take a mandate. They can still come to power and deliver with the new zeal. And I think that is where all of us has to come forward. Thank you.
Interesting bits you've brought about. We'll go for the next round and ask for that. But now I would like to ask Rima Bishwakarma, as someone who has worked extensively in media and public life, as though she's a well-known and very popular actor, how do you view the role and responsibility of the media during the times of protest and political uncertainty? How do you think the media can shape public discourse in a more ethical and inclusive way? Is that possible? And did the recent movement leading to the ouster of the government have any impact on the media and the ensuring public discourse? So Rima Bishwakarma, I'd like you to respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for giving me an opportunity to voice myself. I am someone who has grown up in media. I've been active in Nepali media for the past 2 decades, so that definitely gives me my own perspective to view Nepali society and the voice of youth. Media indeed plays an active role in shaping of the society, be it be during the time of crisis or be it be in normal days. Media can definitely frame narratives to influence people by amplifying the issues or shifting the attention of people, which means that it can definitely make an impact in decision making of the people, especially during the protests and political uncertainties. Media has more impactful role to play, I believe. It can either strengthen the protest or mislead people in its own way by setting up the agendas in the ways it want to, by influencing people. Talking about the Genji protest, I believe it was kind of it exposed the structural disconnection between mainstream media and youth, and also a kind of dissatisfaction between not just youth but also among the people and the political leaders in the country. But surprisingly, this time we witnessed that youth who were representing the protest or taking the lead of the protest, though it was just a reflection of what people were experiencing for a longer period of time, they tend to take the help or rely more on digital media rather than the mainstream media. Could be because of their assumption, which is in some extent true as well, that they were the mainstream media kind of politically aligned, or maybe they thought they were being misinterpreted, their voices was not taken seriously. So they kind of chose the digital media for the reason maybe it was more interactive, more responsive, and they were feeling like it looked as if they were feeling more confident uh, regarding them, regarding representing them in their own and building up their own narratives. So I think the protest, it kind of it was the shift toward digital media. The shift was not just technological, it was deeply political as well.
So did
Because
the mainstream media follow suit? Did they take this into account?
they I think they do push the protest. They have been trying to follow up, and they have been trying to build up a connection with the youth and their voices post the protest. Within the protest or prior to the protest, uh, including myself, we felt as if uh, there was some kind of disconnection going on between mainstream media and the youth. Not just youth, actually. It felt like the mainstream media was kind of shaping up what to think rather than voicing out what we were thinking.
Right. So, so you think that the ouster of the government has had an impact on the media and on the public discourse that is taking place now and what is being discussed now? Yeah, is that what you were trying to say?
Yes? I mean, it was reflecting the representation, and rebuilding trust requires not just inclusion of leadership, but also of youth, so that we could work on it.
Okay.
We still are trying to figure out the whole thing, actually.
Okay, so now I'd go to the last speaker in this, and then we'll go to the second round again. So, Bhojraj Pokharel, you're an icon in Nepal. You had held the 2008 elections, which is the one election that everybody thinks of as very positive, and it was held under your aegis as Chief Election Commissioner. Now, looking back at the elections then, held after such turbulent times also, just like now, do you see similarities with the situation, or is it totally different, a different time and a different issue and a different space and different concerns? It was a time of change and transition, but I think it was a hope and for a future, and now it is a sort of a distancing of what the politicians have failed. This, from what I heard from our previous speakers. And so now the youth want to say, we don't want anything of the old now, we want to change. So what do you see as the pros and cons in relation to what the situation is now, from when you were the Chief Election Commissioner then in 2008 and the situation now? So Bhojraj Pokharel.
Thank you, Kusi, for arranging this program and engaging me also. Listening to your question, I guess I may not be the appropriate person to answer all those questions. However, I will pick up some of the issues and share with you. Well, if you look at the Gen Z movement, youth in Nepal always are the tool for the change. Earlier, they were taken as a tool, instrument by the political parties. Thanks God, this time they came themselves as an actor. This is my impression about the Gen Z movement. And while talking about the 2008 and 2025, that time also the country was in crisis, was in difficulties. There was no any political parties were seeing in different directions, and bringing them together for the single cause in the election process was really challenging. And now I'm also seeing the same in this election also. But the difference is that time they were more or less agreeing on the election, but they were not. They had the disagreement on within the in the various electoral components. Yeah? But now the deviation is that there is some differences between the older generation political party and the new generation. That is one scenario I have seen. And secondly, that time also the major issue was the inclusion, because the exclusion was the major factor of our decade-long conflict. That was the main issue. And that time we try to include through our new electoral system, And through the affirmative action, though that is not the long-term solution, however, we try to bring all the voiceless voices in the parliament process. And because of their representation in the CA assembly, election assembly, constituent assembly,
Constituents.
they were able to influence their agenda to be included in the constitution. That is the result. How we can see, the women's representation or other weaker section representation in the elected body is very encouraging in Nepal. So my expectation now is that now it is the same issue right now also, but with the more Gen Z, how how I'm hopeful is that through this election, the Gen Zs or the reform-minded people will be, will have the more opportunity to represent in the parliament. Even if whatever the size of the voice is there, they together will create an enabling environment to force the agenda that they fight for. So that is another scenario I am seeing. And third thing, whenever we talk about the challenges, we will talk later about the electoral challenges. However, my experience says that inclusive consultation with the stakeholders will provide an opportunity to them to own the process, so that it becomes easier, in manage the following activities, including the elections, and transparency and the credibility of the institutions that are responsible to handle the situations are very much crucial and critical, so that the people trust whatever they deliver. Another, my experience from that, and which can be related to now also, is that when we are dealing with a complicated or very difficult situation, flexibility is rather than rigidity helps to create an environment.
Important.
Yeah?
Very important.
For example, in 2008, to bring all the, not only the Maoists, but there were dozens of, French, other, groups who were operating with weapon and other various sections of the society, to bring them in the electoral process. We extended several times the election date. Even we given time and time for the voter registration again and again. And even the political party registration also we given in extended times. And even for the nomination date we extended. On the one side, we were having the dialogue with them. On the other side, we were, giving, extending the time so that all the parties come together and they participate in the election process. So sometimes the flexibility also needs to be done in. And another thing that what I am seeing similarly, not exactly the same, but the security environment. Security environment is the key for any electoral process. That time, the level of terror was another level. That time also the security sector was very much demoralized. Army was within the barrack. Nepal police was a little bit defeated forces by the Maoists, so that they themselves were feeling unsafe to provide the electoral security. In that context, that was the context that time. Right now also, during the movement, the security sector, they feel threatened themselves. They have lost their confidence. And if the security sectors, police, they themselves feel unsecure, then how they can provide the security to the to the election? Moreover, not only the security sector, all the electoral partners, there are the candidate, voters, or the observers, or the officials who go for the election process. If they don't feel secure, then it would be difficult to manage the election. That is the reason why that time we devised various issues, and then we were able to conduct the election. However, because of the weak governance and the lack of the weak enforcement, we oversaw various electoral violence during the campaign period. However, right now also, I'm a little bit seeing this scenario, listening to the different political parties' versions. And also, moreover, at that time, money was not the problem in politics. But now, the money has been the major worry in the politics, whether how we can control unlimited campaign finance, that is, so that the election results are not hijacked by the money. That is also the issue, that new coming issue is there with us. And plus, now this just we were listening to the Rima about the social media, how powerful it is. It's having its very much positive impact in the society, but how we can save the election from the disinformation and misinformation, so that so these are the critical challenges I am seeing in this election also.
That was very clear. I deliberately let all of you talk because I thought it was very important that we understand the situation and that we get a much clearer view. We are going to the next round, but we'll ask everyone to be much more focused and, and just answer very short. So I'll go to Tanuja. And, you said that, from the Gen Z and people in the movement, there are also fragments, there are differences in the movement. So now elections are going to come about and a new government will be formed. Now, how do you all ensure that the same mistakes are not made, which made you go into the streets and have the overthrow of the government? How can you ensure that your voices are heard? So how can you influence what the governments are supposed to be accountable to people and reflecting the demands of the people? So I ask this because I think this is something that it affects all of us. So very shortly and very quickly, Tanuja, can you just reflect on this? Especially as we had Bhojraj talk about how, time at that time, it was a different situation. Now, do we have the luxury of giving time to be able to change and to be flexible? So Tanuja, very quickly, thank you.
To be very honest, Kusi, I cannot really ensure anything right now. that Janji really cannot ensure anything right now. That's why, that's why, after whatever happened on Nepal on 9th of September, all of the people of my age group were scared. And they were, that we felt a kind of statelessness that day. And that's why changes, they came forward and did all this discord thing for choosing the prime minister, because we felt the vacuum of leadership, a vacuum in the leadership. And I cannot fake promise. So I want to be really honest. We cannot really ensure. However, what Jinji are doing and what Jinji can do is that in Nepal, if you see the government, they come and they go. But the opposition has always been absent in Nepal. We don't really see any opposition, even though there were opposition, so-called opposition inside the parliament. But we feel like it was not, whatever happened to Nepal was not just the failure of the government itself, but it was also the failure of opposition parties equally. So right now, changes stand as an opposition and as a constructive critic to the government and also to the existing political parties. So what we can ensure right now is that we will stand as a civil society, and we will also stand as the foremost opponent to this government, because we don't have any opponent today as well. So that I can promise. And the other
you
thing,
mean an opponent? Sorry, you mean as an opponent, as a part of the citizens, as part of citizens?
I feel like in a healthy democracy, the best opponent the nation can ever have is citizen itself. And instead of being some populist stunt maker, I think even the young people, they should be the constructive critic rather than fake promising and advocating for haphazard issues. It's high time for us to understand the gravity of crisis we are in right now, and act sensitively toward it.
Thank you, Tanuja. You're very wise, and I think everyone should listen to your words of wisdom. I'd like to go to Bhakta now. And Bhakta, you spoke a lot, and I think it was very clear. I'd just like to ask you now to focus on the inclusivity, whether it's a central factor. How can it be made more representative? I know that the last, in the Parliament of Nepal, we looked at it in the region as how you had become more inclusive in terms of, in terms of your ethnicity, in terms of women. You had such a large number from a very small percentage of women in the parliament. You had a very huge percentage in the parliament. So inclusivity is there, but does it really mean inclusivity? How do you ensure inclusivity in Nepal's election system? Because before you talked about the voters and how they can be more active.
Thank you. I think fundamentally because now we are practicing the parallel system of electoral system is a parallel first past the post and the PR system, right?
Yes.
So first past the post, it is not any inclusion in the first past the post. So major chunk of the representation is out of this representation. So only the PR system, within the PR system we have this quota system. It is for the women, Dalit, indigenous, and others. So I mean the major 6 constituencies, they are getting the quota from this PR system. So now what we are trying to say or communicate to the policymaker and the political parties and the state institution is, so it has to be the proportional representation based on population, both in the first past the post and the PR system, and the federal level, provincial level, and the local level. Because women are more than 51%, then why we are always sticking in the 33%? No, go beyond 33%. So now we are demanding for the 50%. So like Dalits, they are in the 13%, 13.8%, then go with the first past the post also the 13.8%. Same like other communities. So that is main one slogan we have been taking, that is the Jasko Jati जनघनत्व उसको त्यति प्रतिनिधित्व. That means the representation according to their population. So that is the main slogan we are trying to promote. And also there are some areas where, I mean, if there is no full proportional representation system in the first past the post and the PR system, then some communities like some area like women and the Dalits, they are the fragmented, they are scattered all over Nepal, every ward of the Nepal and every household of the Nepal. So that means, so we can at least find some secure constituencies fighting among themselves and bringing them into the mainstream political processes. There are a number of ways. I mean, 21 points recommendation that we have come up with the civil society, broader level civil society, consulting with the national institution, I mean the human rights institution and others. So we have submitted to the political parties and the state institution and including the election commissions, because there are very secure and the clear-cut areas where we can promote the this inclusivity, because Nepal is the country of minorities, diversity, and these differences are there, but the diversity is sometimes very beautiful. So we want to convert into the beautiful. So I mean that in the policy level also we have some analysis and we have some recommendation and we have some multi-stakeholder dialogue. We have some level of uh, I mean, the interaction with the multi-stakeholders. So that I think somehow we also felt that after this Gen Z, having this rigorous discussion, rigorous processes, but somehow we could not communicate very properly to the Gen Z groups because our language might not be the fit for their understanding because and how they want to understand, how they want to perceive this whole process. So we are somehow not able to communicate them, but now onwards, so definitely we have to communicate them properly. That means we have to engage them into the full process so that all other marginalized community, including the youth, we can bring them into the mainstream process and the see in the policymaker, policy making institution, including the parliament. But one final thing is
You have
what
to,
we have, yeah, only one sentence is, I think we have shifted the system so far number of time, but we have still not shifted the power to the people. So that is still remaining. So we have to shift the power to change the community, to change the system, to change this whole range. So that's my final task. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bhatta. We'll go to Pramod now, and I'll ask you a very focused question. You also are a security expert, and you've been both in Bangladesh, but now we'll talk about Nepal. There's this claim, or there's a recurring claim that the Nepal Army could have prevented the burning of national heritage sites, that it could have prevented a lot of the loss that has happened, and that its failure to do so reflects institutional shortcomings. I'd like your point on that, because this is an issue or a criticism that has come again and again. So would you very briefly touch upon that? And what is the responsibility of the Nepali army in situations such as what happened in September during periods of civil unrest? Yeah, Pramod.
Thank you very much. I think it has been highly debated in Nepal at the moment. I think the first is that there are legal complications as Nepal army is not prepared for internal security crisis like such. So actually Nepal's constitution clearly states in Article 267 Clause 6 that the president has to give decision or permission to Nepal Army to use at the recommendation of National Security Council. So situation was all of a sudden, it was not like there was a time of 1, 2 or 3 days. It was within seconds they had to make decision, and they could not do it because the situation was out of control, and the Council of Ministers, government, president were not able to give directive to the Nepal Army. So Nepal Army did not have any order. Second was that there was fear of escalations. The situation was such volatile that any step against the protesters could, or any further shooting that was required to control the situation, could have further escalated the situation. We have seen in Bangladesh how it inflated, and a leader had to leave the country. Nepal could have reached to that situation. At least all the leaders are in the country at the moment. Third, I think there is also risk of foreign intervention, or you can say attack on sovereignty, because any escalation such as civil war type of situation would have invited intervention of foreign powers. We have open border with India, and we border with very sensitive region of China. So I think these are big powers looking at this. They might have come into that situation where they could have sent their military, or the United Nations or any other country could have sent it. So it would have impact on Nepal's national sovereignty. And it has a huge impact on remarkable history of Nepal Army as a failure story. So I think that was the calculation that Nepal Army had. I think most important are also political calculation. Knowing that the people were against the political system, Nepal Army might have chosen to remain exercise restraint. We have seen how Nepal Army responded in 1990 Jana Andolan, where they did not rescue Birendra, or in 2005 during Republic they did not rescue Gyanendra. So I think the Nepal Army in Nepal understands the mood. They're able to calculate the mood of the people and then act. I think one last was also maybe probably army also wanted to put themselves as a last resort when things goes completely out of hand, then they will come into the picture. So probably these were the calculation of Nepal Army at the time. I think this was the right decision made by Nepal Army, that they did not jump into the situation and further complicate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go to Rima now. Rima, you now decided to enter politics, and I assume it's the recent political and social, movements that has influenced your decision. I assume so. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and encourage you to take this step. And I would like to see how, do you see space for civil society actors in Nepal politics, and do you have to join existing political parties, or is there it's time and space for you to be outside of main parties and still have a very strong political role to play? So Rima, over to you. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Thank you again, Madam Moderator. Right now, I'm representing a new party named Ujalo Nepal, which means Brighter Nepal. Since I've been part of media and working actively in media for past 2 decades, I have been part of all the pain, anger, and frustration going on of the society. Though I don't represent the particular Gen Z generation, I do represent their anger, I do represent their dissatisfaction, which clearly represent the failure of the political leadership in our country. Push the I have been part of raising voices regarding all the matters from my perspective and from the place that I represent. But then there has always been a limitation. I have always been talking about it, and I have always realized the limitation of not being able to solve it. That has always been there. But post the Genji protest, 2 things that triggered me to actively take part in politics or to emerge as a youth leader is one was the lack of leadership, which happened to grew later post the Genji protest. We happened to realize that there is this gap and space between the youth leadership and the proper leadership of the nation. One was that. And the second was, no matter, despite of the larger population, despite of the large demographic presence of youth in our country, we have not been able to represent ourselves. Probably that was one of the outcome of as a result of the Genji protest. So I really wanted to be part of rebuilding the nation and assuring the youth that we really can make the change and be part of the change. That is the motive of me entering the.
Okay, thank you. So
Thank
I'll go to Bhojraj now. And so, the March 6th election is just around the corner. It's going to be happening in 3 months, less than 3 months. And I'd just like you to you spoke at large, and you spoke quite clearly about what the situation and the issues and the concerns are. So do you have any views to give us about what should be the balance and the role and the kind of way the political parties who are contesting will be behaving for the elections? Should there be an election code of conduct? What is the voters' role? How important are the voters' role? Is it just giving a ballot and a vote and that's it, and that's the role is finished? Monitoring elections. What is the election commission's role now? How effective and how independent can they be? And I'd like to then go back to the first speaker in our list, who was Tanuja, who said that she sees that what their role is actually not being the party themselves, but to be a very strong monitoring and a group, they'll be the ones that will be seeing and ensuring that the government and political parties and the parliament behave. So I'd like your very quick points on this, Bhojraj.
Thank you again for these unlimited questions. Yeah, I'll try to deal a little bit. First thing, this March 6th elections are the test and opportunity for the Nepalese democracy. First, let me talk a little bit about this election. That right now, the government is committed to meet the schedule. All the political parties who are, to go to the elections, they have registered with the Election Commission, and they have already in the internal preparation. Also, the Election Commission is already on for the technical preparations, and even they have to bring out the schedule, and even the nomination dates are coming very close. So these are all the welcoming steps that make hopeful to us. However, before going to your questions, I will highlight a few points that about the election and election date and its possibility. Number one, right now, there are 3 critical cases pending in the Supreme Court, challenging the constitutionality of the government itself and to reinstate the parliament, dissolve parliament, and the constitutionality of the agreement made between the Genji and the government. So when, how the Supreme Court will decide on these things, that is a major, the things that we have to take in our mind. And lately, how in the initial situation, except the UML, the rest of the political parties, they were for election, and the Nepal Congress officially they announced that they will participate. They welcome the election and they will participate in the election. But very recently, Congress looks that its leadership looks that they have aligned with the UML to reinstate the parliament. So what it indicates and how the things will go on. So my main worry is that. The second point I want to highlight is that, the Mr. KP Oli, who was ousted as the prime minister in recent, their through the general convention, he again is elected as the chairperson of the parliament. In his first remarks and address to his cadre, he used so much highly sensitive wording. Just now, the investigation commission is on work. Mr. Prime Minister, Home Minister, and few other security-related personalities, they are supposed to be invited by the commission for the clarification and for the investigation process. So in that context, I'll bring 4 or 5 points that he made. Number one, he mentioned that I don't recognize this government. Number two, I don't recognize and obey the commission of the investigation. Number three, I will not go to if they invite, I will not go to give my, by hand, my statement. Instead, if the government arrested me in any charge, then you people, my cadre, you have to be prepared nationally to control the nation and to totally stop the country, paralyze the country, and you cannot trust the security of the government, but you have to manage in the world level, in the community level, your own security committees to protect yourself. So these are the messages publicly he delivered to his cadres. So I am a little bit worried with these 2 events. Yeah. So having said that, now, but personally, I am for the election, March election, because even if the parliament is reinstated, that is not the solution. So Now let's go to the election point, that what are the different roles of the political actors. Number one, election commission. The problem with the election commission is that there is no chief election commissioner, and this government and a few other commissioner. So this government has no authority to appoint the commission because their hands are tied. Constitutionally, their hands are tied. So that is one my worry. The election commission, as I indicated earlier also, that need to be more, the bigger role, bringing the political parties together, having the political dialogue, and encouraging giving the message to the people that the election is coming, so that creating an election environment is the primary role of the election commission. I'm a little bit, the a little bit slow process I'm observing from the remote on that side. Secondly, the election commission has to make massive, logistical arrangement. I have heard that till today, they have not yet decided about the budgeting, et cetera, and how long it will take in the procurement process, how complicated it is, and the materials are not available within the country, and we have to bring out, and so that is another story. But I'm hopeful that we have the institutions, we have the institution memories, we have the people can do it. I'm looking from that hopeful side. But one of the key point of the election commission in this coming election is that they have to their enforcement capacity needs to be increased. Number one, they have to use the modern technology to monitor the different negative factors of the election process, and book the culprits on time, and creating environment so that other will take the lessons. And for the political parties, there is no other option for them. They have to come. They should come to the election if they love to the country, if they trust. Then so how we can motivate these political actors, mainly mainly UML. Congress will come, but how to convince the UML, that is the key agenda, and there every sectors of the society has to invest their energy, including the civil society, the government, and all. And then the political parties, they need to assist to create an enabling and secure environment. They are the tool of, they are if they act peacefully, if they act lawfully, things will go on. So they are the creator of the problem. So how we can stop them being a creator to a enabler for the positive things. And for the election, last time also, in this security situation, what I did, what we, the commission did, was that we engaged maximum level of international and national domestic observers. 63,000 plus domestic observers observed that election. 1,000 plus international observers were, and even their presence, that will neutralize the conflict. That was my understanding. So we invest on that, we promote for that, and that create a level of investment. So I encourage, how we can have deploy the maximum observers so that they can be a very good vehicle to lead this, to make this process peaceful. And for the monitoring of the election, but we have the various mechanism in monitoring. However, the main problem is in the enforcement capacity of the various actors, including the government, including the police security sector, and the election commissions itself are vital. And more than that, the youth, what I see the youth is that whatever the even the political parties main tools to violence or to destruct the problem, to create the problem, they use the youth. So how do we can bring those all the youths together to play a constructive role to make this election happen? Number one. Number two, I was listening to the complications and on Tanuja's the very wonderful saying that how we can bring all the conflicting changes together. That is one of the vital things. And the Genji, they have the capacity to use the modern technology, so that how they can connect the IT to fix or to monitor the macro level issues in the electoral process, whether it is the campaign cost or the violence or other factors. And also how the youth, because whoever is youth from even within the political parties also, there are the youths who are the pro-reformist. So how they can campaign against those people who were responsible to bring the situation in the country, exposing their deeds, and how they can promote the reform-minded people so that they can have the more chances to come in the election process. And even if the Gen Z's political parties, the newer political parties, if they can come together, instead of dividing, if they can come together with some, and that also can help. Otherwise, even if we have the election, and if the old generations, again, they are in the power, and what will be the future of the country? So saving all that, what I want to conclude is that, in Nepal's history, always except the extraordinary situation like right now, always the power has been transferred through the peaceful election process, number one. Number two, even if there are the differences during the election processes, election results are always accepted. There are no any post-electoral violence in the country. And fourth, one of the very strong component of Nepal political culture is that even if the political parties, they are fighting in the street, immediately within the hour, they come together in the round table to address the problem. So that is the beauty of our political culture. So how we can, I'm hopeful that this coming election also will be successful with these our legacies will be helpful, and we'll have a successful transition from the caretaker government to the elected government and the parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhojraj. Thank you, all the panelists, for sharing your very valuable insights. I know we've gone 18 minutes beyond our time. We said we would have questions. I don't know, Sarita, if we have had any questions in the chat. Are you all willing to go on for 5 to 7 minutes? And I'll then hand it over to Sarita, who will help us by monitoring the chat and passing the questions to me, and then we will go with the questions. Sarita, are there questions in the chat? Have we got any questions, Sarita?
There are plenty of questions.
There
Kushi.
are questions. There is two from Dilruksi. If Dilruksi would like to come and only ask one question.
Just one question, Dilrukshi?
Yeah. Maybe the one that you can that can be addressed by Dr. Pramod Jaiswal.
Is Dil still here? I think she's left.
Yes, hi. Sorry, I didn't think I'll have to ask a question. So my question is to Dr. Jaiswal. Whether through your studies, through your research efforts, whether you found out the possibility of external actors having a hand in the Gen Z protests or the Gen Z led protests, and whether it was entirely organic and domestic. Thank you.
Right. And do we have any other questions? Which we can put two questions or three questions and then have that
Three questions. Yeah. We do have one from Namrata for Bujra sir. Namrata, you want to read your question?
Sarita, I think you can give, there are other questions also, so you could give others a chance rather than me.
Sure. There
Yeah.
is one from Navita. Navita, if you want to question Tanuza. Navita, you here?
I would like to
Yeah.
request our speakers who were there to take note of the question that has been asked to them, and so when they respond, yeah, Tanuja, yeah, Sarita.
Yeah.
go.
Thanks, Sarita. Hi, Tanuja. Very well presented. So, from the Gen Z perspective and how all of you youth have deliberated on the causes of corruption and how do you see it getting addressed. As you can see that it's been said, yes, elections will be held, but will elections bring about that change? So just want to hear from you that where do you see the problem lies?
Should I answer it now? Or
We'll just after one more question, and then each one will, okay, Bhojraj will, and then you.
There are a bunch from Lolly. Lolly, do you want to present one of your question here? Lolly got a pretty good questions.
Lolly
Lolly?
said she was leaving.
Oh, she's leaving. Rani, you got a question too. Do you want to have your questions here? And that would be our
I
last
was, uh, may I just wanted to know, and somebody's already asked that question in the chat list also, is that, the disruptionists, and it's been pointed to by Mr. Pokharel also, that, the disruptionists can create a situation where people also may not be able to come out or are reluctant to come out. So that I see as a challenge because in our region, South Asia, it's so easy to create a mob situation and a disruption or conflict. So I think that is very important, how the extent to which all stakeholders are willing to prevent that, because unless they do, it can happen. And sometimes the disruptionists are not there. They are encouraged to come. So that was one of my worries, because that's how many of our elections get disrupted.
Thanks, Rani. Is that directed to anyone in particular?
No, I think anyone who can answer, because it's I mean, to some extent, Mr. Pokhara has addressed it as a challenge. I was wondering how will this challenge be
Others
met?
can respond, yeah. So maybe we have Tanuja first respond, and then we have Bhojraj, and then we have anyone responding to your question. So Tanuja?
yeah. I'm almost feeling sleepy. It's 4 a.m. here in Sydney right now.
Oh, you're in Sydney.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being with us.
So thank you, Nivita, for your questions. I've seen another question of yours in the chat box, and I would like to address that too. See, the problem I think with I have lots of my seniors here, and I know they might have better answer to this, but the culture of impunity, why it prevails in Nepal, it's because I think it's because of the weak institutional memory. In Nepal, if you see, in every decade, we have a big movement that lead us to chaos and did not really change anything. It happens because our political system has been failing to observe the gist of the movement. And until and unless our political ecosystem observes that, we will be in the same loop and nothing will change. So I think it's high time for Nepal to strengthen its own institutional memory. And another question was that will election solve everything or not? I don't think election will solve everything. However, However, if we see the gravity of problem we are in, the crisis we are in right now, it's not just about the election, but also about the existence of democracy, and also about the sovereignty of Nepal. And for the stable country, I think election is indeed one of the most important thing right now, because the parliament we had before was disowned by the people, and there are general people of Nepal are demanding for the new government, and just to respect the voice of the people and the existence of its citizen. I think election is the most important thing right now. And other thing is, what are the three most impactful measures to nip in the bud about the corruption? Like I said, there is no hard and fast rule for ending the corruption. However, I believe that the slogan to end the corruption itself is a very populist demand in itself. It's a process. Addressing corruption is a process, and for that, I am hopeful that this time Nepal will really vote people who genuinely serve the people rather than sell their agenda. And the second thing is that we as a citizen have our duty itself, because I feel like even Nepalese citizens, we have normalized corruption and stopped asking questions. And because of this normalizing culture, we have given power to the representative of people. So I think we will stop normalizing it and ask questions in a right time. And the third thing is that it takes generations to develop the strong institutional memory, and I feel like Genji will acknowledge this, and the coming generations will hopefully acknowledge this and work together for this.
Thank you, Tanuja. Is there anyone else who would like to respond to the question that Khawar Mumtaz Rani raised? And then I'd like to go to Bhograj. Anyone who would like to respond to Khawar Mumtaz Rani's the question she raised? Is there anyone? If not, we'll ask Bhograj to respond to both.
Simple one thing I just want to add is that, like, yes, who were the bigger political parties so far? So we don't know from the next after the next election. These are in the scene. Some of them are in the scene as a challenge. But now onwards, I'm also observing like this Gen Z, they themselves, they are starting street protest. They announced today. Some of them, they are going back to the street protest. So that also might create some another challenges for the peaceful election. So I don't know. This very established political parties or emerging forces also, I mean, somehow I'm seeing as a challenge for the peaceful March 5th election. I don't know in the future, but at least for March 5th election. So I think there are a number of challenges, not only for this. So yeah, it's.
Thank you.
I think there is a hand raised from Dr. Pramod for his question as well.
Yeah, so right. Okay, Pramod.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Diduksi, for this interesting question. Actually, there are accusations in Nepali, some section of Nepali media towards the role of West and the US. Basically, it's because it's only the West and the US provide support to majority of the youth-led organization. So I think based on that, there are some rumors against West and the US. There are also some rumors against India, especially like the role of RSS, probably that India was not comfortable with Oli-led government. We all know that Oli-led government was in anti-Japan parade in Beijing. He was standing with Xi Jinping, Putin, Kim Jong-un, all the communist leaders. So probably some can speculate those kind of conspiracies. But however, I do not have any evidence. Neither any of the media has come forward with any evidence. And I think this is not the first time that Nepal or any other countries have accused the external forces, be it Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or Nepal. So I think we have always accused some external forces behind it. So I think there are no substantial evidence to support there are some external support for that. Second is that uh, I do not completely say no to any. I think even any political change, be it in any country, there is always a external support, one can say, but there's no direct role that they have come and mobilize all those possible. It's not possible when there is frustration among the people. If it is not possible when there is strong grievances against the government. So I think obviously certain countries who stand with democracy want to see democratization of that country. So they have been playing a role where they want media to be free, they want political parties to be more accountable, they want some level of transparency in governance. So I think ideologically, in that sense, there is support of US and the West, but I've not seen any direct intervention of any government who has played a role in this movement at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. I think we'll have to end here now because it's already 10. We've gone half an hour past the time we were supposed to end. And I really want to thank all our panelists for their excellent insights and to our audience for the participation. I hope participants, panelists have looked at the questions in the chat box. There were some excellent questions. If not, I think we will try and send you the questions that you can have a look at what were the issues that people were looking at and raising. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to Sarita, and I want to thank everyone and officially close the session for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushi. First of all, thank you so much for such excellent moderation.
Thank you everyone.
And okay, I think if we can just go and take a quick picture. I'd like to request all the volunteers and panelists to turn on the camera so that we can take a quick picture, and all the participants as well, if we are still here. If not, then actually very appreciative to all the panelists, Bujra Sir, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, Tanuja Pandey, Bhakta Vishwakarma, Rima Vishwakarma, for all your perspective. It's a very insightful session. Special thanks goes to all the people who made this event possible. Beyond those you saw on the screen, there are many volunteers whose dedication and hard work has made sure that event goes smoothly. Special thanks to Vidya Adhikari, Pragyan Srivastava, Regina Johnson, Namrata Sharma, Khabar Mumtaz. Before we close, we gently request, if you are able, please consider contributing to our year-end fundraiser using the link on the chat. And thank you once again. We look forward to seeing you all in our future events, and we look forward to your support. At the same time, once again, thanks to all the speakers for their time. It's middle of the night somewhere. For Tanuza, it's 3 a.m. For other, it's in the middle of the night. Thank you so much. We'll officially end this session here. We'll close the recording and also close the live. In the meantime, if you want to hang out, we usually go behind and